If you're over 50 and you've been feeling exhausted no matter how much you sleep, if your weight keeps climbing even though you haven't changed your diet, if your mood crashes without warning and your doctor keeps telling you everything looks normal on your blood work, I need you to stop what you're doing and watch this video. Because in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you the single most destructive force silently attacking your hormones after 50. Something that is happening inside your body right now. Something that is directly responsible for fatigue, weight gain, brain fog, low libido, and accelerated aging. And the most shocking part, your doctor has almost certainly never mentioned it. Not because they don't care, but because most medical schools spend less than 4 hours teaching this in their entire curriculum. Stay with me until the end, because I'll also reveal the one simple daily habit that Harvard researchers found can reduce this hormone killer by up to 47% in just 8 weeks. That's coming at the end. I'm Dr. James Andrews. For the past 22 years, I've been studying the intersection of endocrinology, cellular aging, and metabolic health. I've worked with thousands of patients over 50 who came to me, frustrated patients who had been told their hormone levels were within normal range while they felt absolutely terrible. And what I found again and again was the same invisible culprit at the root of their suffering. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism followed 9,400 adults between the ages of 50 and 75 over a 6-year period. The researchers found that this one biological process, which I'm about to explain, was responsible for a 61% reduction in testosterone in men and a 58% reduction in progesterone in women. In the same age group, over the same time frame, 61%. That is not a minor fluctuation. That is hormonal collapse. And the name of this process is something most people have never heard of in the context of their hormones. It's called cortisol-driven hormonal displacement. And it is the silent killer of every major sex hormone in the human body after the age of 50. Here's what's happening inside your body right now and why your standard blood panel will never catch it. Your adrenal glands produce a hormone called cortisol. You probably know it as the stress hormone. But what most people don't realize and what most doctors don't explain is that cortisol and your sex hormones are built from the same raw material. They are all made from cholesterol. They all run on the same biological assembly line. And when your body is forced to produce more cortisol, which happens constantly after 50 due to poor sleep, inflammation, blood sugar swings, and daily psychological stress, it literally steals the building blocks away from your other hormones. This is called the cortisol steal. Some researchers call it the pregnenolone steal, but the effect is the same. Your testosterone drops, your estrogen becomes dysregulated, your progesterone collapses, your DHEA plummets, and your thyroid function, which depends on balanced cortisol levels, begins to slow down. And when you go to your doctor and they run a standard hormone panel, they look at your levels in isolation. They don't measure the cortisol to DHEA ratio. They don't test your 4-point diurnal cortisol pattern. They give you a single morning cortisol reading, tell you it's normal, and send you home. Meanwhile, your hormones continue to be silently destroyed from the inside. This is why so many people over 50 are walking around feeling like a fraction of who they used to be and getting no real answers. Now, before I go into the 5 mechanisms through which cortisol destroys your hormones, I want you to stay until the very end of this video, because I'm going to reveal the single most effective evidence-based intervention for breaking this cycle. It costs nothing. You can start it tomorrow morning. And a 2024 Stanford study found it reduces cortisol dysregulation by 47% in just 8 weeks. Let's get into it. Mechanism number 1, the pregnenolone steal. Every single steroid hormone in your body, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, DHEA, cortisol, starts as one molecule, pregnenolone. Think of pregnenolone as the mother hormone. Your body takes cholesterol, converts it to pregnenolone, and then routes it down different hormonal pathways depending on what it needs most at that moment. And here is the critical problem. Your body always prioritizes survival over reproduction and vitality. Always. This is millions of years of evolutionary programming. So when you are chronically stressed, and after 50, most people are chronically stressed whether they feel it or not, your body routes the majority of your pregnenolone toward cortisol production and away from testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. A 2022 paper in Psychoneuroendocrinology showed that adults over 50 with elevated chronic stress markers had pregnenolone to cortisol conversion rates 3.4 times higher than younger adults under the same stress load, meaning the older you are, the more aggressively your body sacrifices your sex hormones to feed the cortisol demand. The practical result, you wake up tired, you carry weight around your midsection no matter what you eat, you lose motivation, drive, and that sense of vitality that used to come naturally. And it has nothing to do with willpower or discipline. It is a biochemical hijacking. Mechanism number 2, cortisol suppresses the HPG axis. The HPG axis, the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, is the command center of your reproductive hormone system. Your hypothalamus signals your pituitary gland, which signals your gonads, your ovaries, or testes to produce hormones. Elevated cortisol directly suppresses every level of this system. At the hypothalamic level, cortisol reduces the release of GnRH, gonadotropin-releasing hormone. Less GnRH means less LH and FSH from the pituitary. And less LH and FSH means your ovaries and testes receive a weaker signal to produce sex hormones. The result is a top-down hormonal shutdown. Your body isn't broken. It's responding rationally to what it perceives as a survival threat. It is saying, this is not the time to maintain reproductive function. This is the time to survive. The problem is your body cannot distinguish between the stress of an ancient predator and the stress of a difficult email, a poor night's sleep, or a blood sugar spike from breakfast. To your adrenal glands, stress is stress. A landmark study from the Mayo Clinic in 2021 confirmed that postmenopausal women with high cortisol variability showed LH suppression of up to 44% compared to age-matched women with normal cortisol patterns. 44%. That is the difference between feeling functional and feeling completely depleted. Mechanism number 3, cortisol accelerates estrogen metabolism into harmful byproducts. This is the mechanism that almost nobody is talking about, and it may be the most important one for women over 50. Your body doesn't just produce estrogen. It also metabolizes it, breaks it down into different compounds, and there are 2 main pathways for this. The protective pathway produces 2-hydroxyestrone. The harmful pathway produces 1,6-alpha-hydroxyestrone. Elevated cortisol, through its effect on liver enzymes and cytochrome P450 activity, shifts your estrogen metabolism toward the harmful 1,6-alpha pathway. What does that mean practically? It means you get more of the estrogen metabolites associated with inflammation, breast tissue sensitivity, and hormonal disruption, and fewer of the protective metabolites that support bone density, cardiovascular health, and cognitive function. This is the hidden reason why so many women over 50 experience worsening hormonal symptoms even when their estrogen levels appear normal on a blood test. The total estrogen may be there, but it is being metabolized in a direction that works against them. A 2023 study in the journal Menopause confirmed this pathway, finding that women with elevated cortisol had a 2-7-fold increase in 1,6-alpha hydroxyestrone production compared to controls. Mechanism number 4, cortisol destroys insulin sensitivity, which then destroys testosterone. This is the domino effect that nobody explains clearly enough. Chronic cortisol elevation causes your liver to release stored glucose into the bloodstream even when you haven't eaten. Your body needs quick energy to deal with the perceived threat. But if this happens repeatedly, your cells begin to resist the insulin that's trying to clear that glucose. Insulin resistance develops. And insulin resistance, this is the critical link, directly suppresses testosterone production in both men and women. In men, elevated insulin resistance reduces late egg cell function in the testes, the cells responsible for producing testosterone. In women, it drives the overproduction of androgens in the ovaries while simultaneously impairing the hormonal conversion pathways. The 2024 Framingham Heart Study Offspring cohort, tracking 6,200 adults over decades, found that men over 50 with moderate insulin resistance had testosterone levels 38% lower than age-matched men with healthy insulin sensitivity, 38% from insulin resistance alone, before we even count the direct cortisol steal. You now have 2 simultaneous forces destroying your testosterone, and they feed each other in a vicious cycle. Mechanism number 5, cortisol impairs deep sleep, which is when 70% of your growth hormone is released. I want you to think about the last time you slept truly deeply, woke up feeling genuinely restored. For most people over 50, that memory is years old. Here's why this matters. Hormonally, approximately 70% of your daily growth hormone release happens during slow-wave deep sleep, specifically in the first 90 minutes of the night. Growth hormone is not just for athletes and bodybuilders. It is essential for cellular repair, fat metabolism, muscle maintenance, immune function, and critically, it supports the entire hormonal ecosystem. It upregulates testosterone receptor sensitivity. It supports thyroid conversion from T4 to the active T3. It reduces systemic inflammation that suppresses all other hormone production. Cortisol and growth hormone have an inverse relationship. When cortisol is elevated at night, which happens with cortisol dysregulation, it directly suppresses growth hormone release during deep sleep. A 2022 study in Sleep Medicine Reviews found that adults over 50 with elevated evening cortisol had 52% less growth hormone secretion during slow-wave sleep compared to controls, half gone, every single night. This is not just about feeling tired. This is a cascade of hormonal collapse that begins in the dark while you are lying in bed. Now you understand the 5 mechanisms: the pregnenolone steal, the HPG axis suppression, the harmful estrogen metabolism shift, the insulin resistance cascade, and the destruction of your nighttime growth hormone release. But here's what I need you to understand before I give you the solution. This is not inevitable. The research is extremely clear that cortisol dysregulation, the root cause of all 5 mechanisms I just described, is one of the most modifiable biological processes in the human body. More modifiable than your genetics. More responsive to intervention than your diet alone. The question is, what intervention actually works? What does the research say? Not the wellness industry, not supplement manufacturers, not social media influencers. That's what I'm going to give you right now. The intervention that consistently outperforms every other lifestyle-based approach for cortisol dysregulation in adults over 50 is something called morning light anchoring, combined with structured recovery breathing. Let me break this down exactly. A 2024 study from Stanford's Human Performance Laboratory followed 312 adults aged 50 to 72 over an 8-week protocol. The intervention was simple. Every morning within 30 minutes of waking, participants went outside and exposed their eyes to natural daylight for 10 minutes. No sunglasses, just natural ambient light reaching the retina. Simultaneously, they practiced what researchers call structured recovery, breathing a specific pattern of nasal inhalation for 4 counts, hold for 2 counts, slow exhale for 8 counts for 5 minutes before bed. That's it. No supplements, no medication, no expensive equipment. The results after 8 weeks, cortisol awakening response normalized in 84% of participants. This is the healthy pattern where cortisol spikes sharply in the morning, giving you energy and clarity, and then drops steadily through the day rather than staying chronically elevated. Evening cortisol levels dropped by an average of 47%. Remember, elevated evening cortisol is what suppresses your growth hormone during deep sleep. Testosterone levels in male participants increased by an average of 23% without any other intervention. Progesterone to cortisol ratio in female participants improved by 31%. Deep sleep duration increased by an average of 41 minutes per night. Why does this work? Because morning light exposure directly regulates your suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master clock of your entire endocrine system. When your circadian rhythm is anchored correctly, your cortisol diurnal pattern self-corrects. And when cortisol follows its proper pattern, high in the morning, low at night, every downstream hormone in your body has the biological space to function. You are not adding something artificial. You are restoring the biological rhythm your body was designed to follow. The breathing protocol works through the vagal system. Extended exhalation activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and repair state, and directly counteracts the sympathetic overactivation that drives nighttime cortisol elevation. 2 habits: 10 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes before bed, free, evidence-based, and more effective at restoring hormonal balance than most interventions that cost thousands of dollars. Now, while the morning light and breathing protocol is the foundation, there are 3 dietary adjustments that significantly amplify the results. These work by supporting your adrenal function and protecting your pregnenolone reserves. First, increase your intake of healthy fats, specifically from whole eggs, avocado, and fatty fish. Remember that all steroid hormones are built from cholesterol. If you are eating a very low-fat diet after 50, you may be nutritionally starving your hormone production. A 2023 meta-analysis in Nutrients found that adults over 50 on low-fat diets had testosterone levels 12% lower than those consuming adequate dietary fat. Second, reduce liquid sugar completely. Not reduce, eliminate. Fruit, juice, sweetened coffee drinks, sports drinks, all of these cause rapid blood sugar spikes that trigger cortisol release. Every spike feeds the cycle. This single change in the Stanford study I mentioned was associated with an additional 14% reduction in morning cortisol beyond the light anchoring protocol alone. Third, add magnesium glycinate before bed, 300 to 400 milligrams. Magnesium is a cofactor in over 300 enzymatic processes, including adrenal regulation and the conversion of tryptophan to serotonin to melatonin. A 2022 randomized controlled trial in the Journal of Research in Medical Sciences found that 8 weeks of magnesium glycinate supplementation reduced cortisol by 17% and improved deep sleep scores by 28% in adults. Over 50. This is not the cheap magnesium oxide you find at most pharmacies. It must be glycinate form for bioavailability. I want to take a moment to address something that I know is in the back of your mind. You may be thinking, Dr. Andrews, if this is so effective, why doesn't my doctor tell me this? The answer is not that your doctor is incompetent or doesn't care about you. The answer is structural. The average primary care appointment in the United States is 17 minutes long. Your doctor does not have time to explain the pregnenolone steal pathway, run a 4-point diurnal cortisol test, and discuss the nuances of circadian biology. They have 17 minutes. They look at your TSH, your total testosterone, your fasting glucose. They see numbers in a range, and they tell you what they were trained to tell you. This is not a conspiracy. It is a system limitation. Your health is too important to be managed entirely in 1 7-minute increments. You need to be your own advocate. You need to understand what is happening inside your body, and you need to act on that knowledge starting today. Here is exactly what I want you to do right now. 3 things. Number 1, start tomorrow morning. Set your alarm 15 minutes earlier. Go outside within 30 minutes of waking. No sunglasses. Stand in natural light for 10 minutes. Tonight, before you sleep, practice 5 minutes of 4-2-8 breathing. That's 4 counts in through the nose, 2 count hold, 8 counts out through the mouth. Do this for 8 weeks. Take note of how you feel at week 4. The research says you will notice the change. Number 2, I've put together a free PDF called the 7-Day Hormone Reset Protocol. It includes the full morning light anchoring schedule, the complete breathing protocol with timing, the 3 dietary changes I mentioned, and a simple 4-point cortisol tracking worksheet you can bring to your next doctor's appointment. The link is in the description below. It is completely free. Number 3, if this video helped you understand something about your hormones that nobody has ever explained clearly before, please subscribe to this channel. I post a new evidence-based video every single day. And drop a comment below with your age and the one symptom that resonates most with you from what I described today. I read every comment. Your experience helps me make better content for you and for the thousands of people just like you who are watching this right now. And if you want to go deeper, the video on screen right now is about the specific foods that double cortisol production after 50. Watch that next. It will change how you think about every meal you eat. I'll see you there.